And a big part of our problem right now with pain and mobility restriction is caused by those scars that we've had over time. And whether they're happening more and more as we go on, even by sleeping the wrong way and you just having a bad night, or a pillow that you should have gotten rid of a long time ago that you've had since high school, probably should be replaced by something else. So even those things can cause problems in your fascia. One of the things that happens here, research-wise, we've been able to determine that those people that do the research fascia, they have determined how collagen fibers work. They know that the collagen fibers are extruded by these fibroblasts. They're the controlling agent. And there are things in our body as they get built. Like, let's say it's bone. When bone gets created, it's still a fascial structure. It's still fascia collagen fibers that's built a certain way, and then you have calcium crystals that are added to it for strength. And how much density within a given, square inch of your bone structure, the density of the fascia and the calcium crystals is determined on pressure. Where you're pressing, let me go back to the banana again, where you're pressing down on a bone, that pressure is going to tell the bone's osteocytes, the fibroblasts of the bones are called osteoblasts and osteoclasts. If this was a bone, it works the same way as the soft tissue that we work in with VFRT. As the compression actually gives a signal to the osteoblasts that there's more pressure in this direction that's needed, so I need more density there. I'm going to lay down more bone. And then as you stop having pressure demands in that area as much, there's almost an instant reaction where osteoclasts start to deconstruct or eat away at the bone. It's because every time some structure in our body is built, there's another opposite function to take away what was built. It's an adjustment. If we only had the ability to create bone and not the ability to take away sections of bone, we would be in some trouble. As our bodies are designed to constantly react to our environment and our demands, our movement demands and our posture demands. So our soft tissue works the same way. If we have a section of our collagen fibers that needs to be removed, just as in there's a demand to have more tension in one area, there is the capability of removing fascia collagen fibers. The problem is the commands that get sent to the fibroblasts, sometimes that gets confused, or if there's a snarling up this fascial adhesions or too much fluid in there, the commands that need to get to the fibroblast cells to take away or to dissolve a rat's nest of collagen, those commands don't get there the same way, or the ability to undo or get rid of, fully resolve a scar underneath the skin. We don't really fully resolve anything after there's trauma underneath the skin in the fascial layers. Unfortunately, that is the environment where cancer gets born from, is the ability to not, or the inability to resolve anything that happens from the surface of the skin on down. The cells are not able to work properly. Our fascia is not able to resolve, meaning everything is back to the way that it was before that trauma. So what we have learned in the research fields for fascia specifically is that in order for the fascial cells, and this works that way for all cells. In order for cells to change their current programming, they really need two things. They need to stretch and they need vibration. And I found this same thing reoccurring in several research papers and books that explain the new understanding of fascia. This reoccurring understanding that for things to change, for example, for a fascial restriction to just dissolve itself because it's no longer needed. If that command can't get to the fibroblast, then the substances that get excreted that is designed to just dissolve the collagen and break it back down, because our body does that all the time, many different ways to break down substances into another form or just to put it back into its original form. We have the ability to do that, but it really needs the stretching of the fibers, and it needs vibration. Now, when we have other modalities here that are manual manipulation, using hands, massage, Ralphing, those sorts of things, some forms of physical therapy, where we're constantly just trying to manipulate and stretch the collagen fibers, we're missing the vibration. And not all vibration is created equally either. These impact tools, or hitting something really hard, that actually causes the fascia fibers to tense up. So what happens here with the tuning forks, they're really made for both stretching and vibration. I'm not talking about you stretching, you get up in the morning, you do your stretches, or before you exercise. I'm talking about a single fascia fiber being stretched. And that stretching could also be pushing down on it. So when we strike our tuning fork and it is vibrating, and we press up against a fiber, a fascia collagen fiber, there is a stretching action that happens, and then there is a command, in this case 128 times per second. There's a stretching action and a repeated command that happens, and then the fibroblasts can interpret that as, I have 128 commands now that this needs to change. And if you do it the right way, you'll actually see this snarling action of that one collagen fiber completely dissolve away into nothing, and it is gone. You'll be able to feel it happen. You'll feel these things when you get the pressure right, you get the grip right, you get the strike right, and you get the placement right, and you put the right amount of pressure on there. You will feel these things actually happen. It will be sudden, it'll be rapid. It'll happen after a certain amount of time, as long as it's placed in the right spot. But it's, in some cases, you can tell exactly when that command was received, because the resolving of a fascial scar or adhesion is almost instantaneous. You'll feel things deflate, you'll feel things moving, and there will be a whatever you're feeling underneath your fingers will actually just go away completely, in some cases, depending on where you have your tuning fork. So that is possible. It is stretch and vibration are the things that we're looking for, and those are the things that our tuning forks do, and that is really at the core of vibrational fascia release technique. We're releasing the snarling of the fascia, and of course the fluids itself, that we usually look to at the beginning of our session, just to save us time throughout the session. A couple of things that we have to consider when we're looking at this vibrational fascia release technique is, what can you work on? What are the things that we should consider that we're working on? You really should know the things that you won't be able to resolve with VFRT. Some of those things to consider are, can you see it and can you feel it? Things that are medical modifications or alterations that once you get a surgery and get a hip removed, you get pins and plates put in, that changes the game, because we're really trying to roll back the body's fascia problems. And if there's a surgery that happens, and if there's no alteration or modification to the body, then it's still a problem, because somebody has cut through all of these fascial layers that now have created scar after scar all the way down to the whatever was worked on. So surgeries to fix a problem to us adds more problems, because then there's still the recovery, there's the time off your feet, there's the lack of movement. So one of the things that we cannot directly influence with these weighted tuning forks is the medical modifications and alterations. We can work on resolving the symptoms that go with that. If you have replaced, if a client has gotten a knee replacement, then of course the time that they were off their feet, we can get their pain relieved in other areas, but we're never going to be able to get them back to their original condition because before the modification. So hopefully they come into you before that, and you can show them that that hopefully you can resolve these pain and mobility issues before they go into surgery. And in most cases, you'll end up helping your client to prevent those surgeries. There's been many times where clients have chosen for themselves, after they left our one session, that the pain was completely gone and it never came back, and they ended up making the decision themselves to cancel the surgery. And it is possible with this technique to do something like that. Birth or development defects, as I said before, that those are some of the those are some of the challenges with VFRT. If there's no original blueprint to move it back to, then sometimes those are challenges. We're not saying that possibility doesn't exist, that there's a deformity in the embryonic part of building your body. It probably could be possible. We've just never been able to find a link of palpating here, putting your tuning forks here, doing this, doing that to a client, and then all of a sudden everything gets straightened up and it changes the whole configuration of the body. That's probably not a consideration we would even look to right now, but there is still the understanding that because of those deformities or development defects, that there's still pain involved in that, because the fascia is still probably not able to operate in the way that it needs to, and there's probably fluid involved, and there's range of motion issues. So we would work on those rather than putting a name to what they're working towards or what their condition is. We would look for where's the pain, where's the mobility restrictions, and work towards those. Things that are more cognitive or learning disabilities or behavioral, cognitive, psychological challenges, those are things that most likely has its place in other modalities, but this is something physical. VFRT is very physical. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on those physical things rather than working on maybe lowering someone's anxiety or helping them with their depression or releasing emotions. This is not that modality. Although some of the things that we do here is going to give them back some of their quality of life. It could be that the pain that they're in day after day after day that's chronic, and they've had it for so long, their quality of life is horrible. They're just in a bad place. The anxiety coming from high blood pressure, those sorts of things. Having anxiety that if you walk, if you walk from your house to your car, that you're going to fall down, or the anxiety that you have this obstruction of your cardiovascular system, and you think that at any point you're just going to die of a heart attack or something like that, or you're going to lose your leg for diabetes. Those things that we can help the client resolve those very, very rapidly, and sometimes that's all they need to get those cognitive and psychological things. And maybe part of the behavioral thing could be high blood pressure or physical related. So we focus on those first with VFRT. It's not something, if we can't feel it, we can't see it, if there's no physical place to go to, if there's no GPS location basically on our body, it's very difficult for us to even know where to focus on first, because we're going to see in our next core skill that it's feeling, it's palpating with our fingers, feeling the difference between normal and abnormal, what feels right, what doesn't, what fluid feels like, what does fascia restrictions feel like, and then finding that spot, gripping the tuning fork right, striking it right, putting it in the right place, and then getting feedback from our fingers, the client, as things change through that strike placement. Then the goal of a session. We set the goal of a session. The goal should be set so that you have one thing to focus on for that session. If there's a laundry list of things that are wrong with that client, sometimes as a therapist we get a little bit overwhelmed. Well, what do I work on first? I have fibromyalgia through my entire body. Well, that's a very easy one with a follow-up question. Where do you hurt now? You should be asking those follow-up questions. We can't work on the entire body from head to toe with one tuning fork. So that person that has full body pain, fibromyalgic pain, let's say, they're still in pain somewhere, and it is our theory that it's fluid related. So when you start doing your palpations, you're probably able to feel locations where you can work on now. So we would narrow our focus to actually working on a location in their body for a specific goal that we're reaching towards, that we want to be able to succeed in that goal and resolve it within that one session.